Are you ready to discover incredible stories and follow evidence about one of the most memorable kings in history? In this video, we will delve deeper into the Bible and reveal surprising truths about Solomon. Don't leave until you find out what we found. You won't want to miss this journey to discover what really happened in King Solomon's life. Welcome to our video. Today, we will explore the true narrative of Solomon, the legendary king of Israel, considered one of the most remarkable in history. Drawing on biblical and historical sources, we will examine the wealth, wisdom, and family intrigues of this great conqueror. Solomon succeeded his father, King David, on the throne of Israel, but the circumstances of his reign go far beyond this simple inheritance. Come and discover the ancient legends, modern interpretations, and secrets of Solomon. Solomon, whose name was significant because he was loved by the Lord, came into the world while his illustrious father, King David, was on the throne. His career as monarch of Israel was not easy, as the story took place amid family conflicts. In this video, we will dive into the challenges and complications that Solomon faced from his first steps as ruler. Follow the saga of a king determined to overcome the influences of his past and write his own history. Now, folks, let's travel back in time and understand the early years in the life of Solomon, the wise king of Israel. Although he came to the throne with an impressive leap, there is a curious mystery surrounding this period. With David as his father, we can imagine that the family had many challenges and conflicts. Despite this, there are not many details about Solomon's youth. What probably happened for him to become king? Let's explore these questions and embark on this journey to discover one of the most famous characters in history. It's time to unravel the mysteries surrounding life before Solomon took the throne. The story gets more and more interesting. Solomon appears in the middle of a plot of family intrigues in search of the throne of Israel. Earlier, his half-brother Absalom tried unsuccessfully to gain power. Later, Adonijah, the eldest of David's surviving sons, proclaimed himself king and held a coronation to do so. The situation became even more complex when Bathsheba, the prophet Nathan, the priest Abiathar, and other affiliates played their roles behind the scenes to ensure that David fulfilled his desire to install Solomon as his successor. Now is the time to delve into the history of one of Israel's most memorable reigns, that of Solomon. His firm and ambitious strategy guided the nation for about 4 decades, approximately between 971 and 931 BC. He reorganized the kingdom by creating 12 administrative districts, with officials appointed by him. What is truly incredible is that each of these districts was supposed to supply the royal palace with unusual amounts of supplies. 9,000 kilos of flour, 30 oxen, gazelles, roe deer, and exotic birds. Solomon also established a preeminent court with a modernized military system, containing chariots and fortifications, as well as new roads facilitating trade. However, what was probably most significant during Solomon's reign were his commercial skills, as he owned many important transportation routes, making wealth abundant in Israel, wealth that increased further with traffic fees and taxes paid by all inhabitants. He also had his own boats that traveled from the Red Sea to the Arabian Sea, bringing his silver from the most distant countries like Ophir, in a crossing that could take almost 3 years. The annual wealth from his business operations was astronomical. Here, my friends, we are introduced to the crowning moment of Solomon's reign. The legendary Temple of Jerusalem was built. This was not only a feat of engineering, but also a symbol of the glory, strength, and faith of not only the king, but also God. Although his father, King David, had gathered the necessary materials, construction of the temple did not begin until the 4th year of Solomon's glorious reign. Even though it was small compared to more modern buildings, it was a grandiose project for the time, with tons of gold and precious wood coming from everywhere through commercial routes. There was, however, an interesting fact. The army of workers was not made up exclusively of Israelites. The king resorted to forced labor from people subject to the Israelites, in addition to recruiting workers from the country itself. At the end of the 7 years of construction, Solomon planned a grand dedication ceremony. There were many sacrifices offered to God as a sign of acceptance. The Temple of Jerusalem thus became the spiritual center of Israel, where the presence of the divinity of the God of Israel was felt. This grandiose building was not only an architectural landmark, but also a symbol of Solomon's dominion, faith, and power over the entire kingdom of Israel and other peoples. But not everything was honors and glory. There were many challenges and problems faced during Solomon's reign. The great King Solomon had a brilliant mind inspired by God, which enabled him to write and leave behind a great literary legacy. He proved to be more than a ruler and a builder, but also a great thinker and author. Solomon wrote thousands of proverbs and songs on diverse subjects, from the profound reach of human relationships to understandings of nature and the divine universe. Through his proverbs, he expressed a profound wisdom that remains a philosophical reference to this day. Furthermore, King Solomon was responsible for several biblical books, such as the Book of Proverbs, Ecclesiastes, and part of the Psalms. He was also a poet and philosopher, and his words still enlighten and challenge current generations. Solomon's fame spread across all continents, which brought people from all nations to the kingdom of Israel to hear wisdom from him. One of the greatest examples is the visit of the Queen of Sheba, who came from the end of the world to hear him. This episode is one of the most iconic in Solomon's life. On that occasion, the Lord appears to him in a dream and asks him, "What is your greatest desire?" It seems obvious that Solomon would ask for riches, longevity, or honor, doesn't it? But, to everyone's surprise, the wise man chooses wisdom. He asks the Lord for a heart that can understand his people and govern them with prudence. God is so pleased with this choice that he grants Solomon wisdom that surpasses all expectations. This comes to light in the famous trial of Solomon. This is when two women claim to be the mother of a baby. As there were no witnesses, the solution seemed almost impossible. But Solomon is gifted with incomparable wisdom and suggests dividing the child in half. The real mother, filled with compassion, offers another woman the opportunity to save the baby, giving up her own claim. Upon realizing that a mother's love for her child is greater than anything else, Solomon understood what the right decision would be and thus solved this difficult case. Justice was served and Solomon's wisdom became known everywhere. This episode is one of the most iconic in Solomon's life. On that occasion, the Lord appears to him in a dream and asks him, "What is your greatest desire?" It seems obvious that Solomon would ask for riches, longevity, or honor, doesn't it? But, to everyone's surprise, the wise man chooses wisdom. He asks the Lord for a heart that can understand his people and govern them with prudence. God is so pleased with this choice that he grants Solomon wisdom that surpasses all expectations. This comes to light in the famous trial of Solomon. This is when two women claim to be the mother of a baby. As there were no witnesses, the solution seemed almost impossible. But Solomon is gifted with incomparable wisdom and suggests dividing the child in half. The real mother, filled with compassion, offers another woman the opportunity to save the baby, giving up her own claim. Upon realizing that a mother's love for her child is greater than anything else, Solomon understood what the right decision would be and thus solved this difficult case. Justice was served and Solomon's wisdom became known everywhere. Although Solomon's wisdom and greatness are widely recognized, he also faced turbulent times in his reign. In this video, we take a closer look at these problems, such as the pressure he placed on his people into forced labor, the business practices that introduced idol worship, and the heavy toll he took on the Israelites. We cannot forget about his intense polygamy, which was a defiance of the biblical precept of not having many wives, which, in turn, led to the worship of false gods in Israel. His numerous foreign wives had a strong influence on him, and in his old age, he began to follow other cults, which was a surprise considering his reputation as a wise man. Solomon also had challenges coming from enemies that God raised up as a means of judgment, such as Hadad the Edomite and Jeroboam himself, who would be part of Israel's history. So it is crucial to understand such situations to appreciate the fullness of his rule.